Hello and welcome to the weekly Beyond the Headlines. Tonight's Beyond the Headlines program is being held under unique circumstances. Tonight, we will examine Grenada's approach into nationhood, 47 years since it gained independence from Great Britain. But before we do, we must treat with a very important matter. For those of you who follow the news, you would have learned in the GBN news tonight that the state of Grenada was plunged into mourning as media stalwart Levi Benoit bid us farewell. Our GBN employee, Levi, was widely known around Grenada. For those of you who follow the news, you would have seen the feature that was broadcast this evening. The depth of the feature with input from varying sectors and persons tells a story. It is with this in mind that we start tonight's program with a moment of silence as a mark of respect to our brother, our colleague, and media worker extraordinaire, Mr. Levi Benoit. So tonight, we start with a moment of silence. We thank you for your indulgence and your understanding. And we move on to tonight's program. As we mentioned, it's been held under unique circumstances, being overshadowed today for us at the GBN with Levi's passing on. And tonight's program was born out of an idea generated by a humble servant of Grenada, Mr. Keith Ventu. He's a humble son of the soil indeed. He called one day, it was about a week and a half ago, and he said, Odette, I have an idea. I'm thinking that there are several Grenadians who have contributed to the growth and development of this country, and I think, we should do something. And we started to knock ideas, and he said, there are some people I could name easily, and he named names, and he's thinking that we could do some kind of activity somewhere and recognize them, but I said, remember, this is COVID. We can't do any major activities. No social gatherings are allowed. So what can we do? And then out of the blue, we thought Beyond the Headlines could be a good staging ground from which we can do this. And my heart really goes out to Keith Ventu. And I said, well, people like who do you have in mind? And Keith Ventu said, Odette, Mrs. Pamela Steele. She was an excellent public servant. Mrs. Glenda Mason-Francis, she was an excellent educator. Mrs. Gloria Payne Banfield, excellent public servant, represented Grenada abroad. And I'm like, indeed, as a journalist growing up, I remember the input of the names he named. And then I thought, well, there's a woman whose service cannot go unrecognized, and so I added her to the list. Her name is Miss Judy Williams. This evening, ladies and gentlemen, I'm pleased to present the panel, and the panel consists of Mr. Ventu's nominees, and we also have in the mix, we have a gentleman who has also played a very important role in Grenada's national development, involved in local politics, involved in politics in the U.S. He's now residing in New York. We have Mr. Michael Roberts with us. So Ms. Judy Williams, we were hoping would join us this evening. We tried contacting her. We did set up the link, but somehow technology seemed to have failed on that end. If there's anybody listening and could assist us in getting Auntie Judy on the line, Sister Judy, she goes by all of these pet names. She's known throughout Grenada and across the world for her humanitarian work. Anybody who could assist us with getting Mrs. Judy Williams to join in on the Zoom this evening will be happy for your assistance, because we did try the house line and the other contact number, but we have not been able to get through. So it is against that background that I welcome this evening Mrs. Pamela Steele, Mrs. Gloria Payne Banfield, Mrs. Glenda Mason-Francis, and Mr. Michael Roberts. Ladies, gentlemen, good evening.
Good evening, Odette.
Good evening, Odette.
All right. So what we'd first do is we ambushed some people yesterday. We said to them that we would be dropping by to do an interview about independence. And it is simply because we wanted to carry Keith's idea forward and we had a floral tribute to those 3 wonderful women. Let's pause, let's take that, and then we'll come back and start the discussions.
This is lovely. This is such a lovely surprise.
Lady Banfield, I want to say thank you for your contribution you've made towards politics in Grenada, the way of life of us as a people. So on behalf of management staff of the GBN, we want to say thank you, happy Independence in advance, and this is our way of saying and showing our appreciation to you.
Well, this is such a wonderful surprise. It really is.
This is what I just want to say. As we're on the cusp of celebrating our 47th anniversary of independence, we want to say thank you to some of the movers and shakers who have done what they have done to make Grenada what we are. You've committed your life to public service. And we want to say thank you.
And the poor.
And the poor.
Yeah, have a social program for 35 years.
Well done. So on behalf of the management staff, the entire team GBN, we say a sincere thank you from the bottom of our hearts for everything you've done for Grenada. It's not every time we get a chance to say that we appreciate you for the contribution that you've made to education, the impact that you've made on the lives of hundreds and thousands of some of Grenada's most brilliant women. And on behalf of the management staff of the Grenada Broadcasting Network, as we are on the cusp of celebrating the 47th anniversary of independence, we want to say a heartfelt thank you. You've done well, and we appreciate it. We say thank you. And this is our small token of our appreciation for everything that you've done for Grenada Live Women. Thank you very much. All right? Is there ever a special occasion, a reason to say thank you? Maybe yes, maybe no. But today we find one. We just want to say thank you, Ms. Williams, for everything. I know yesterday you and I, we were talking. I know when you said, I don't want flowers. And you were telling me the joy that you get is the satisfaction of knowing that you've done your part. And indeed you've done your part. But for us, we just want to stop to say thank you. We've recognized the contributions you've made over the years and the impact you've had on the lives of millions, hundreds of Grenadians. We just want to say that we do. On behalf of the management staff of the GBN, we want to say thank you for the contributions you've made while in a non-governmental organization, but you impacted so many lives, and the stories yet to be told. We say thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you. Let me accept graciously. Thank you so
There's no doubt in it.
very much.
Well, no, we caught them yesterday in the ambush. We want to thank the family members who assisted us in pulling that off yesterday. And I want to say a very special thank you to Team GBN, Mike Alexis, Janelle McDonald, and Joseph Cadeau, among others, who worked. The idea came up late Friday. We said our brains were tired, so we'll run it over on Saturday. On Saturday, we fine-tuned the plans, and on Sunday, they were off. So at very little notice, Team GBN was able to pull this off. We thank the families. So let's go over to the panel, and let me ask, we start first with Mrs. Mason Francis. Mrs. Mason Francis, what was that like yesterday?
You all caught me off guard. I thought you were coming up to interview me or to make preparations for this evening. So then, as I told Joseph, I was speechless. It isn't very often I can't say anything, but I couldn't find words. I really do appreciate yesterday evening, and thank you all for honoring me in this manner.
Very good. Mrs. Gloria Payne Banfield, we know that you're used to giving and giving. So yesterday when GBN showed up at your doorstep, your brain was tickling and tingling?
I was expecting Joseph Cadeau because he called me before and said he would be stopping by after 1. And I said, okay. I wouldn't have had my lunch yet and I wouldn't have been able to offer him some because we do usually eat a little late on Sundays. Well, when he arrived, but then he floored me with this bouquet of flowers. I could not believe it. And like Glenda, I was lost for words for a few minutes.
Great.
And when he said he was making this, but I think it was an excellent gesture. And I appreciate it very much. And I'd like to say thank you to you and the staff of the GBN for that thought. Wonderful.
And as I said, that is a gentleman by the name of Keith Ventu. I was trying to coax him into coming on the program this evening so that Grenada could really see who was the mastermind, but he's camera shy. But one of these good days I will catch Keith and I would make sure that he gets his due recognition. So Keith,
Well, the name is familiar to me, but I missed seeing him yesterday.
Okay, good. Mrs. Pamela Steele, you're a neighbor of the GBN. We walk down to your house. We see you walking back and forth to St. George. You don't take the bus, strong as a lion. And when Team GBN showed up yesterday?
Well, Odette, when the team came, I was speechless. I thought, just like Glenda, we were preparing for the program. And when Mr. Cador came up, I didn't know what to say. And then he said, you know, I brought you flowers while you're still here. And I said, no, don't look at, you know, Rootsman Kelly, but you're giving me my flowers before I go. And he had a good laugh. But thank you very much. As I told him, I am literally in GBN backyard. And I want to take 1 minute to really express my condolences on Levine. He came up those steps so many times to do so many programs for GBN here in my veranda that his death really had me very traumatized. But I want to thank all of you and who was really instrumental in dropping that lovely bouquet for me. And I've put it in a great spot in my house. Thank you again.
You are most delightfully welcome. And Mr. Roberts, we reached out to you in New York because we've heard the name a lot over the years and the great contribution that you've made. And tonight we want you to assist us in adding names to the list because you've worked with so many people. But I'm certain you first want to do a reflection on the three ladies gathered here this evening.
Thank you very much. I am just so honored to be here. And I want to bring warm and fraternal greetings from the Grenadian in the United States, particularly in New York and the great borough of Brooklyn of 2.5 million people, of which Grenada is a significant part. I'm also elated tonight to see my former GBSS teacher, Miss Mason, who probably would remember a very rambunctious and mischievous young man. And this is such an honor for me to be on tonight with these great ladies. This is indeed the year of the ladies. As you know, we've elected the first Black, first female Vice President of the United States, and we're very proud about that up here. But in my borough, in New York City, where I've been for the last, 34 years, we have made tremendous strides in terms of women's rights, equality for women. Even though there is still a long way to go, we are still making a lot of strides. One of the main strides that we made in the diaspora is that for the first time in the history of New York City, the largest borough, Brooklyn, the Democratic Party is now headed by a female Haitian assembly member, Rodney Bichet, young woman, and we are extremely proud of the strides. So hats off to GBN for really making this incredible contribution. And my sincere congratulations to all the three ladies on this panel. It's really well deserved, especially my former teacher.
All right, thank you. Somebody wanted to say something? Oh, I thought I heard an interjection.
I was just saying thank you very much. Because when I heard the name, it brought back memories. And I remember a very small boy in the class, might have been the smallest in the group. And in so many years I haven't seen you. It's a pleasure to see you here this evening.
Okay.
Thank you.
Very well. And I think I see an appearance on the screen. Do we see Miss Judy Williams joining us? Good night, Miss Williams. Okay, well, okay, so we see Miss Williams, but the person in the house, somebody, if you can assist us with the audio. Miss Judy, if you could wave, can you hear us? Can you wave if you're hearing us? Okay, so she's not hearing us, so I'd like to ask the technician at home to please assist Miss Williams with the audio and to make sure that she can hear us, because we would really like to hear from Ms. Judy Williams. She's an icon in Grenada, and if she has to be remembered for anything, whenever I speak to her, she says, Odette, I am here to help poor people, children. And I remember when Ms. Williams opened what was then the Poor Paul Center. I was a very tiny journalist at the time. It was a Sunday when the official opening was held. The Grandfruit Women's Cooperative was opened on a Sunday. And I remember writing the report. I went to the site, and it was a very promising activity. And several women benefited. But as we know, as with everything else, it encountered its own set of challenges. Ms. Williams operated Grencoda for a number of years. Her heart and her soul is there. We'd say that her navel string is buried there, and we're really hoping that we could hear from her. Let's go back to the panel. Ms. Pamela Steele, for the young Grenadian who are looking and wondering, who is this lady? How would you like to be known to those young people?
Well, Odette, first of all, I consider myself a wharf woman. I grew up on Old Wharf Road. And you know, because you are a younger version of wharf woman from the Park Lane. But I have always felt that you must not let your surroundings and your environment dictate the pace of the outcome of your life. And so when I was growing up on the wharf, it was not the ideal place for people. There were a lot of problems there. We were right there. And a lot of the young men would get in trouble. A lot of the men worked on the boats and the ships. Everybody was very poor. But we survived. And I have always really and truly appreciated my upbringing there. Besides that, I came into the government service in late, I would say May, June, about, let me see, 1962. And from the beginning, I decided I would make the public service a career. I was fascinated with what the public service had to offer. And so I spent 38 years in the public service and retired as a permanent secretary. I learned the system. I work with ministers. I work with 6 prime ministers. I train a lot of people, and I help a lot of people. I still have a very soft spot for the public service. My favorite ministry was the Ministry of Agriculture. My challenging ministry was the Ministry of Health. And within that period of time, I also went into dealing with the poor and needy. And I have worked what we call a soup kitchen together with a number of persons, including a priest and his wife, for the last 35 years. I meet all kinds of people. You can just walk off the road on Market Hill and come into our program. I worked 7 years with the Society for the Blind, a great challenge. And I worked 7 years at the Grandhands Home for the Aged, another challenge. Basically putting a management system in place there. I also worked for 1.5 years at the Queen Elizabeth Home. At these institutions, my role was to put a management system. Because I'm not a nurse, that would not have been my calling. And so in a nutshell, this is what would show, if I had to write anything, who I am.
Well said. 38 years in the public service. She retired as a permanent secretary, and she served with 6 prime ministers. Noteworthy. So Keith Ventu hit that on the nose. In case anybody had any doubt, I don't think we have any now. Not that I ever had, having interviewed Ms. Steele over the years, but in interest of full public disclosure. So I noticed we have Miss Williams. We will get all the technical issues sorted out. Yes, that person behind, let me ask you to come forward, unmute her microphone. That's okay if you appear on the camera for 30 seconds. Auntie Judy, you're hearing us. We want to be certain that we hear you. So once your microphone is unmuted. Good night, Miss Williams.
Good night, Sister Odette, and good night to the rest of the panel. I am sorry that I have had these challenges, but I am in new territory here on my own. I've done it before with a lot of technical assistance. I'm in new territory, but finally I'm on, so thank God.
Thank God. And thank you, Judy Williams, for your many years of service to Grenada. And I tried to shield you and told them you weren't doing any interviews these days. You wanted to keep a low profile, but they thought they'd try, and I'm happy that they did. So yesterday, some people came creeping up your stairs, and you thought they were going to interview you. Tell us about that experience.
Yes. Well, I thought I had made myself abundantly clear to your beloved staff, whose name I shall not mention, that I am not in a position to do these kinds of interviews because I have major challenges with my vision. And so it's very difficult for me to look at the screen, for me to do any of this, and therefore I was not going to be able to do it. And yesterday when they came creeping up my step with a bouquet of beautiful flowers, which I love and I'm deeply appreciative for, I was expecting to do an interview and finish with that. Instead, here I am tonight because of what they have done. I hope I can manage this. You notice that I am wearing dark shades, even if it is after 8 or minutes to 9 in the night. And that's because it is very, very difficult for me to keep my eyes open with the screen and with the light. So most of the times I will have my eyes closed. Forgive me for this, but they've led me into this, and here I am.
So Ms. Williams, Grenada does not mind if you have dark glasses at this hour of the night that are 10 times darker than this. Grenada appreciates you. And we would probably stick with you for a little bit just in case you need to give your eyes some rest and probably move away from the screen. And so we want you to write your own script. And you want the young people of Grenada who are not accustomed to or used to hearing about Miss Judy Williams to remember you how?
To remember me, Sister Campbell, as a Grenadian woman who is passionate about her country, who is passionate about her people, passionate about service, in particular to young people, to the most vulnerable, to families, and in particular to rural communities. I think it is important for our young people, and I know that there are lots of them who does have that level of appreciation. I think it is so important for us to instill in our young people the values that I have to say that I had growing up in a very deep rural community. Values of respect, values of love and appreciation, values that speak to love for country, love for the environment, love for people, and values that say that service is an honor.
Great. Well said, Ms. Williams. And like I said, we'll stick with you for a little bit just in case you need to move away earlier than we anticipated. So, Ms. Williams, we hear a lot of things about you. We hear about Pope Paul Center. We hear about Gren Food. We hear about Gren Coda. Juggle our memories a little bit on those and your involvement.
Oh, okay. Football Center. Football Ecumenical. I came, well, of course, as I said, I am Grenadian, of course, all of me. In the rural community of Munich, parish of St. Andrew. And at an early age, I left home for additional work, well, for work and additional study in Trinidad. There, after a few years, I entered the religious life with the Sisters of St. Joseph of Cluny. And then, having spent 8 to 9 years there, I went on to work in the island of Dominica for a short stint before I went to Mona, Jamaica to do social work. Having done that, fast tracking a little bit, I came back to Grenada and joined the church, the Roman Catholic Church in Grenada, to take the Pope Paul's Ecumenical Center, which was a building basically without a program, but with a vision for young people, in particular in Grenada. I spent 10 years at Pope Paul Center working with young people, with rural communities, with women, with youth. And then post-invasion, backtracking again, Pope Paul Center was no more. It had become what it is now, the New Life organization. And so with other colleagues, we started the Grenada Community Development Agency in 1985, registered as a full-fledged non-profit organization in 1986, January, and here I am.
Well done, Ms. Williams. You've done a lot of scholarship programs. We've covered them in the news. And I just want to say that you have been an inspiration to me, as have been other members of the panel. And I have this little thing that I say, I always used to wonder, when Judy Williams is gone, who will replace her? There's no replacing Judy Williams, but somebody to carry some kind of torch and baton. And tonight I celebrate a young woman by the name of Orisha Joseph, who I met several years ago. And we'll talk about her in some future programs so that people understand that people like you serve as silent motivation. We come back to Ms. Williams. Let's move on now to Mrs. Glenda Mason Francis. Mrs. Mason Francis once made a statement about a particular student of the Anglican High School who shall remain nameless in the interest of tonight's program. But Mrs. Mason Francis, we have some young people like my children who are wondering, who is this lady? Why does mommy have her on tonight? Tell us about your involvement in the development of Grenada.
Where do I begin? Thank you, Odette, for having me here tonight. Well, first of all, let me say, this year seems to be a year that I will not forget as long as I'm alive. About 2 weeks ago, I celebrated my 81st birthday. And the past people of the Anglican High School did something, they had me like I am tonight. I didn't know what to expect, told me get ready. And the occasion was something out of this world. Young ladies, young women, some of whom I forgot, some whose voices I remembered, they just laid it on for me. And that was so wonderful of them. You tonight and GBN, and yesterday afternoon followed up with the presentation of your bouquet. And this again was something I never thought of, and it really caught me off guard. And I do appreciate all of this. As I told them, and I'm saying it to people here, when I die now, all you need to do is put me in the church and put me in the grave. You have paid me all the homage, and so that is true. And I really appreciate and like that. My life has been devoted to teaching and educating young people. I started off with my GBSS boys and was very reluctant to leave GBSS to go to the Anglican High School. But the Anglican High School was also a part of me. And I started off as a child at high school, then went to convent, then ended up between high school and GBSS. So that was my school life. Teaching, now moving over to the girls, well, that was quite a lesson for me. And I enjoyed it. But sometimes I wonder if I have to live my life over if I would teach, especially nowadays where there are so many challenges. And dealing with young people today is not the same as dealing with young people when I dealt with them. But I still devote a lot of time to the high school and the GBSS, always inquiring, always what's happening. And my children tell me, my two girls, they don't know why I won't leave the school alone, and they want to know if my navel string is buried there. But I suppose as long as I'm alive and as long as I could move, the Anglican High School and the GBSS will have me being interested and doing for them whatever I can do. One of my old boys, my past students, is right here tonight. And it is a great pleasure to have him here on this, to be with him. And I suppose we will remember lots of things together. It took place in a lot of years since he would have left school and I would have left the GBSS, he would have been away. But you imagine it is 20 years already since I've retired. So that tells a story. And I do appreciate this evening. Words cannot express my gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're welcome, Mrs. Mason Francis. And she would have highlighted the fact that she was principal at the Anglican High School. And there's some little memories that I'll never forget. I am a past pupil of the Anglican High School. And one day I'm coming up the passageway Mrs. Mason Francis is coming from the principal's office. And all I heard her say was, before you see Odette Best coming, you hear her coming. I have never forgotten that. Will never forget it for as long as I can live. Mrs. Mason Francis, do you think you remember that at all?
No, I don't. I don't remember that.
I don't remember what I was saying, what I was doing, but Mrs. Mason Francis made that comment, and I have never forgotten it. But I say, you know, I was being prepared to use my voice. So thank you, Mrs. Mason Francis. So we are left now with Mrs. Gloria Payne Banfield. She's somebody who I have admired over the years. I have interviewed her several times. She's enlightened me on a lot of national issues. And I also had interactions with her through the Grenada Netball Association. Let's remind ourselves that those picks were not mine. They belong to Keith Ventu. Lest people think that I was being biased or GBN was being biased. If you want to heap anything on anybody, throw it all on Mr. Keith Ventu. But we're not second guessing ourselves here. Mrs. Payne Banfield, Keith is honored to think of the contribution that you've made and thinks you should be honored. And you want those who want to make sure that he made a right pick, know these things about you. What would you like the public to know?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting me and thank Keith Ventura for suggesting me. Secondly, I'd like to express my condolences to the family of Levi Benoit. Levi, I knew him very well, because even yesterday when they came to my house, I asked, where's Levi? And they told me he went to hospital. And this morning I heard the news and I was devastated. Such a lovely person. So we mourn with you and his family. And then I'd like to say that it's very exhilarating to be in a program with 3 high school girls. You, Miss Bess, Mrs. Campbell, sorry, Pamela Steele, and Glenda Mason Francis. All of us went to the Anglican High School. And there must be something special about that. Sorry, Judy, but I know Judy from another level. I work with Judy in Grencoda, and I think she's the most, it's a word that it eludes me right now. But, she's the sort of person that you enjoy knowing, meeting, and working with. So, Judy, thank you for exposing me to all the good work that you do in Grencoda and making me a director of Grencoda. I really appreciate your work. You're doing a fantastic job. I don't know, this panel seemed to be overloaded, I think, with women, but I can't say that I must leave out Mr. Roberts, because he is doing what I would call a balancing act with these 5 women here. And I don't know how he feels, but he must be a man of stamina to deal with these 5 women here. So it's a pleasure being on the same program with you, Mr. Roberts.
Thank you.
What else you want to know about me, Odette?
So, Mrs. Payne Banfield, your years of public service.
Pam, have been a civil servant. I did it for 32 years, public service. And one of the things that I liked very much about my life is that it was varied, really varied. Because during the 32 years of my civil service career, I also danced. I taught dance. And Glenda, I don't know if you remember when Mr. Batiste called me and said, I have some boys that I want you to teach to dance. And I ended up with a dance group in the GBSS, of boys only. It was quite an interesting time. Till we said we got to the position where we wanted to do dances with couples. So the boy said, well, we're not dressing up like no woman, so we'll have to get some women. So they invited the women, some girls from the Anglican High School, to join the dance group. But it was quite interesting to work with those young people. They regarded me as a big sister and asked me all kinds of questions, which sometimes I had to get help to answer them. I'll tell them, I'll research that and come back. So I did a lot of research to try and, tell them what they wanted to know. Wanted to know about life, wanted to know about everything. And we did picnics and we went to the drive-in cinema and we did all sorts of interesting things, I think, besides dance. I also had dance classes at St. Paul's. We had a group there called SPADA, St. Paul's Academy of Dramatic Arts. It was started by Spanky Macmillan, and they did drama, singing, and dance. And I spent a few years with them, and thank goodness, because of one person out of that group, David Thomas, has been the person who carried on the Vinnie La Grenade dance group, which I started in 1974. And it's now going to be as old as Grenada, 47 years. In 3 years, we'll be celebrating 50th anniversary of Vinnie La Grenade dance group. So the legacy is still alive, it's going on, and people are still dancing, and I'm very glad that dance has gained a place in the cultural life of Grenada. I see Pam nodding, and Pam comes to all the Vinnie La Grenade dance shows.
Excellent, Mrs. Payne Banfield. So we'll come back and we'll discuss some more about that, because she did have some tenure in the diplomatic service as well. Miss, you want to just run through that for us in 30 seconds before we cross the commercial break?
30 seconds in the diplomatic corps, 8 years. 8 years in the diplomatic corps in New York at the UN and at the OAS in Washington.
Okay.
So that's it in 30 seconds.
Great. So what we'll do at this time, we'll take a commercial break and we'll come right back with our panel, and we'll be looking at their thoughts on Grenada and how far we've come as an independent nation, and we'd also segue into some interesting things. There's a photograph that I want to show some of us this evening, all of us, and we'd ask a certain person to identify a certain person in that photograph. We'll be right back after this break.
Have you ever felt the need to give back to your vegetable or flower garden, lawn, potted plants, or planters? The Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority is pleased to introduce the new Home Garden Composter. A neat, efficient, quick, and easy start to home composting. Get great value from your food scraps, grass, lawn clippings, paper waste, and animal manure through home composting. When you do, you will be returning valuable nutrients to the earth rather than discarding at the landfills. Get started with a Home Garden Composter, now available at Grenada Solid Waste Management Authority, and let your Home Garden Composter make your gardening dreams come true.
Get Rubigas. Get cooking. Rubigas, clean, safe, and reliable LPG is the perfect solution for your commercial and everyday needs. For cooking at home or barbecuing, choose Rubigas LPG cylinders. Available in a variety of sizes from 20 to 100 pound cylinders. Rubigas LPG, clean, safe, reliable. Are you cooking with Rubigas? Get Rubis, get going.
How going on, boy?
Hey, good old things.
Hey, Daisy.
Yeah.
Boy, in line, boy. Your house looking a real good day.
Boy, it's thanks to the hard-working and professional staff at the Housing Authority of Grenada. They handled me real nice. They did my plan, they did the construction, and I didn't even have to worry about a thing. They were there with me every step of the way, supervising the job, asking me about my concerns, giving me feedback as the house took shape. They were there from start to finish, and even put the keys in the palm of my hand. I give them an A++ for customer service.
Oh, it's people from housing bad, boy.
Boy, not bad. Excellent. If you're thinking about constructing your home, why not consult the Housing Authority of Grenada? You could visit them right down in the Sandino complex, or give them a call, 440-1015 or 440-1016. Or check out their website, hag473.com. They go handle you. They go jog your blocks, they go draw your plan, they go tote your materials. Hey man, where you going? The Housing Authority of Grenada is your choice for affordable housing and a stress-free construction experience.
Do you know what time it is? You guessed right, it's detox time again. At Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. Purchase our 7-day cleansing pack for only $500. Includes everything you need for a complete total body cleanse. Cleanse your blood, kidney, liver, and colon. This cleanse will help you lighten up and get rid of the excess. Also available are our special product Detox Combo Pack for only $100. Try our single detox products starting from $40. Check us out now. Belmont St. George's, close to the Fall Edge area, or call us on 231-6642, 449-7753, or 418-7115. Nirvana Natural Health Clinic, Detox Center, and Natural Health Store. Detox, your way to health.
I'm reaching my dreams with GOT. They're the ones for me. I'm reaching my dreams with GOT. They're the ones for me. Since 1983, they've been serving the country, and we like all their financing, giving the people what they want, what they need, what they love. Come and join the family that's here for you all the way. From birth to graduation, your first job to your home, and your card through your golden years.
The GT Credit Union has been actively supporting nation building through its many sponsorships and programs, including financial literacy quiz, Pass the Torch Calypso program, junior cooperatives in secondary schools, CPEA, and the TAMCC grants. The credit union has helped many people make their dreams come true. Let them help you with yours. You don't have to be a teacher to be a member. So what are you waiting for?
GUT Credit Union, it's where you belong.
Total is one of the world's largest oil companies with a top quality line of lubricants. Total Lubricants has a full product line from passenger cars, motorcycle, heavy industrial equipment, mining, trucking, agriculture, and manufacturing machines and vehicles. Total Lubricants, winning championships in motorsports, including Formula One and World Rally Championships. Total Lubricants are available at all Rubis service stations, leading automotive shops, and distributed by Huggins.
Peace of mind comes from knowing that your family is safe and financially secure. For your peace of mind and theirs, plan ahead. Beacon's Rest Easy policy helps you to do just that. Rest Easy is a policy that offers you a payment upon your death or the death of any covered family member that can be used to offset post-mortem expenses. For as little as 75 cents per day, you can ensure that your expenses are covered. Call Beacon at 440-4447 and sign up for the Rest Easy plan today.
With just $2, you can gift yourself with a chance to win the Lotto jackpot. Now, imagine winning the National Lotteries Authority jackpot of $66,000. Why pass upon this winning opportunity? Lotto, play and win a lot of money.
A pleasant evening to everyone. Welcome to the National Lotteries Authority's Lotto Draw number 3171 for today, Monday, February 1st, 2021. I am Anisha Charles. With me this evening is Ms. Jocelyn Clark from PKF Accountants and Business Advisors, whose purpose is to ensure that this show is conducted in an accountable manner and the game balls with industry standards and in no way tampered with. At this time, show tickets at hand because we're about to play for a jackpot of $64,000. But first, your free ticket letter. Good luck. This evening's free ticket letter is Sugar Tickets. Your free ticket letter for this evening is F, as in fantastic. Let's proceed for 5 winning numbers. Good luck. First number this evening is Sugar Tickets for me time. First number is 14. Second number. Second number is 26. Third number up. Third number is 13, followed by 30, fifth and final number. Final number is 18. Let's recap those numbers. Check your tickets. First number up is 14. The second, 26. Third, 13, followed by 30. Fifth and final is 18. So that's 1, 4, 14, 2, 6, 26, 1, 3, 13, 3, 0, 30, and 1, 8, 18. Your free ticket letter for this evening is F, as in fantastic. Congratulations to all the winners of this evening's Lotto Draw. Lotto, play and win a lot. When you play all the games of the National Lotteries Authority, support sports, culture, and nation building. Thanks for joining us. Have a wonderful evening.
By now, you should know that the early bird catches the worm. So, what are you waiting for? Put wings to your feet and head to your nearest scratch seller. For every quick sevens scratch ticket you buy at $2, the NLA gives you 7 chances at winning as much as $7,000. Scratch the entire play area for your 7 chances at revealing as much sevens and win the corresponding prizes. Win easy with Scratch. Must be 18 or older to play.
Welcome back to Beyond the Headlines. This evening, celebration 47. We're celebrating 47 years since Grenada gained independence from Great Britain. Our panel this evening, our distinguished awardees this evening, and we have Miss Judy Williams, Mrs. Gloria Payne Banfield, Mrs. Glenda Mason Francis, and Mrs. Pamela Steele, together with Mr. Michael Roberts. He's joining out of New York. And Mr. Roberts, you did talk about your involvement. So what we want to cross over into people in the diaspora who have been taken for granted, but played a significant role in Grenada's development. Would you want to help us identify some of those people who over the years have made this contribution?
Absolutely. And I think that the symbiotic relationship between Grenada Grenadians abroad and Grenadians here is a matter of historical record. Today, Grenadians continue to play a significant role across all industries, socioeconomic issues, etc. For example, the second in line to the mayor of New York City, and New York City is a city of 2.85 million people, and the line is an under 50-year-old son of Grenadian parents. Both his parents were born in Grenada, and I remember, I of course refer to the public advocate of New York, Manny Williams. For those of you who don't know New York City's politics, once the mayor of New York steps out, the president pro tem, who is normally the public advocate, steps in and is the acting mayor in his. And so we're very proud. Jumani does not, in fact, hide his roots of being a proud Grenadian, and he can be seen on Eastern Parkway and all about with this Grenadian flag. Another Grenadian doing really great work is a former commissioner of the Small Business Association of New York City. He's gone on to bigger and better things. I'm talking about Mr. Greg Bishop. And of course, he's one of the most influential people in New York City. New York City is home to almost 800,000 small businesses, second only to Los Angeles. And to have a Grenadian at the helm up to a couple of months, he moved on, I said, to bigger and better things. That tells you how the Grenadian diaspora up here, Grenadians up here, are in fact making a mark. I also would mention deceased Roy Hastic, who is a pioneer in the area of small business development and advocacy. He founded the Caribbean American Chamber of Commerce and Industry that is now in its 34th year. And this is one of the most influential chambers across New York City. Unfortunately, he fell victim to the COVID-19 and, in fact, passed on. Just now we had a little discussion about the culture from Ms. Gloria Payne, Banfield, and so forth. And I also would like her to know that in New York, we still have Quake USA carrying the banner of Grenadian culture in the Caribbean diaspora in Grenada. So these are some of the influential people. There are a number of other people like Derek Ventu, who is one of the first people to put together the Independence Ball. I joined him in that venture in, I think it might have been around 1990. And the Grenadian Independence Ball, of course, continues to this very day, honoring Grenadians, celebrating Grenadian culture, Grenadian arts, Grenadian businesses every year around this time. There's Mr. Winston de Ravinier. Grenadians at home and abroad would know him as Cracker. He represented Grenada in bodybuilding and other arts during his time in Grenada. And for years, Cracker Records and Electric, one of the few Grenadian businesses at the time in 1988, was literally the social gathering for Grenadians coming up to New York for the first time. And he's around, and that is somebody that's an unsung hero of the Grenadian and Caribbean country, diaspora in New York. Mr. Derek Noel, who is a band leader and, like Mr. Ventu, an impresario in the arts. And he, again, is a businessman and a promoter, promotes both Trinidad and Grenadian calypso musical art culture. And of course, I would be remiss and he would turn in his grave if I did not recognize the human contribution of Dr. Lemuel Stanislaus, or former ambassador to the United Nations, and in fact, the most respected dean of the Caribbean Consular Corps during that time. I'm sure Banfield can attest to that. And all Mr. Steve Alexander, of course, he's gone to the ancestor, who is in fact voted among his peers as the most influential consul general across the entire Caribbean diaspora and the Caribbean Council of Corps. So Grenadians at home and abroad continue to make strides. We are in New York, we are right here. My own self, I remain one of the key political campaign strategists, Democratic Party strategists. And somebody said that I would be kind of intimidated by this panel of women. In my career, I've elected 9 judges, all female, to various courts in New York City, one of whom is Supreme Court Justice Sylvia Ash, whose parents are both Trinidadian and Grenadian. So, and right at this present moment, I am managing the campaign of a Barbadian ex-NYPD cop. She's been a detective for 34 years and is running to fill a seat in the city council in this electoral cycle. So I do have that background of working with women across the board in terms of electoral and other politics. So that's a little bit about what I think about the diaspora at this point in time.
And Mr. Roberts, some people would look at you and you have a very good CV for true. Let's step back and come to the period 1979 to 1988, before you migrated to the U.S. You want me to highlight some of those, or you'd rather do it yourself? I think I'd rather you do it yourself.
Okay. I am a GBSS boy. I'm very, very proud one. Was a little bit kind of mischievous and rambunctious and that kind of stuff, but I like to say that I had some excellent teachers and mentors, Miss Mason being one of them. And I believe that the person that I am today is a result of that sort of mentorship. Because Miss Mason was not just a teacher. To us in GBSS, she was a mentor to many, many really talented young people in school at the time. After GBSS, I, of course, worked at the Inland Revenue Department for some time, and then got into politics with my association with former Prime Minister Maurice Bishop. I was a part of the Grenada Revolution, and the first 8 months of the revolution, I haven't been one of Grenada's first karate experts, holding a black belt in karate. Oh, I see you found a very famous picture that is all over the world.
So, Mr. Roberts, let's just stop there for a little bit and tell us if you identify anybody in that photograph, and you'd like to tell us who you identify, who the person is.
Well, I identified the shortest person in the photograph. That was when I had a lot of hair. That's a picture. I don't remember where it was taken. But there is Maurice, of course, and this adorable lady, grandmom, who really came up to him. I don't remember the photographer, but that was really an incredible picture of the kind of person that Maurice was. To his back and the left, that is, he's from Carriacou. Don't remember his first name. Last name is Billy. And the gentleman that is right close to Maurice there, looking away from him with the afro, he's from, nickname is Lala. I don't remember the first name and last name. But he was part of us.
The person in the front with the shirt, with that button there and the string slung across, that is Mr. Michael Roberts, right?
Yes, it is.
And you were Maurice's personal bodyguard?
Yes, it is at that point in time.
The youngest head of the special branch?
Yes, sir. Yes,
you
ma'am.
dealt in intelligence and counterintelligence?
That is also true.
So as you look
Sister
back on
Judy.
You want to cross to Sister Judy. Sister Judy, he wants to engage you here.
Sister Judy is somebody I know. Gemma says, I think she's looking on. Sends her greetings to you, and it's really good to see you again.
Very good to see you too, my dear.
It's been many, many, many years.
Right. While we have Miss Williams back on the screen, Miss Williams, in the days of the revolution, what kind of role did your agencies play in Grenada's development? We hear a lot about manufacturing, eat what you grow, grow what you eat. Tell us about your involvement then.
Well, it was not agencies because at that time I was at the Pope Paul's Ecumenical Center. So the role that we played was from 1975, even prior to the revolution. I was very much involved in the development of the agro-processing in Grenada, using some of the local fruit and vegetables to replace, that's how we refer to it, replace the imported products. So back then, we were already working on using our papaya, damsel, condition, French cashew, nutmeg pods to replace the imported currant and raisins and prunes. So came the revolution, and of course, that gave us impetus to continue. The Gren Fruit Women's Cooperative was therefore formed in 1982 as a full-fledged women's cooperative and produce the local fruit of and the replacement for things like, as I said, the imported product. We went on to do guava, using the guava halves to replace the imported pear and apples and peaches in syrup, and to make the things like the guava cheese, etc. So basically, that what I would say is the hallmark of the work that we did. A lot of the work was concentrated, of course, prior to coming into the agro-processing, what I call the human development, the personal development, building the human capacity. And so it concentrated on encouraging young people, especially young women, to see themselves as agents for change, to take on a more independent and confident character, to build a self-esteem. And having done that, to then organize themselves for employment with the emphasis on self-employment.
Great. Mrs. Mason Francis.
I also played
sorry, go ahead.
A role in the CPE program, teaching young people and teaching, well, not only young people, but teaching persons in the rural communities to read and write and to become more involved in terms of self-education.
Okay, excellent there. Mrs. Mason Francis, people sometimes see education as an abstract. We growing up knowing you must go to school. But would you like to highlight for us the role of education in nation building?
Oh, well, simple. What
you're not educated, you can't build nations. I would like to go back perhaps like the 70s or so. And why I would take in this period? Because before, well, let's say 1974, if we go back to 1973, during that period, we hear out 72 and coming up, all these things about the Black Power movement, and we had all leading up to, revolutions and so on and so forth. Now this came about, Black Power movement came about around the early 70s, and it started in Canada, so George Williams University. Then you had a group in England, and all these were young people, young Grenadians studying. And the history social studies, and law. It was in these three areas mainly that the revolutionaries were born. They came from that. From going back and studying history, and so you were able to compare how the world moves when you want change. It's young people through the years, through the ages, from way back when the wars and everything, it's young people who begin these movements. So the Black Power that started at Sir George Williams University in Canada soon spread to the islands, and people who were studying there from the islands came back home to bring about change in the various West Indian islands. So we have to link education, what you learned, what you read, to the changes that took place. And as someone who did history myself, it is from that you know that the whole world and all the changes was based on a revolution, one or the other. You had France, you had Spain, you had going back to the Greeks and the Romans, and so all movements and revolutions taking place. So what eventually took place in Grenada, again, you had like the independence and so that came up there. We would have had independence if not under E.M. Gary, it would have come about. It was a time for change. And all the islands and everybody, they were craving independence from the mother country at the time, from Great Britain. So it is not a surprise. And again, well, I could say, we have a young GBSS person. And GBSS is one of the schools named as where the revolution took place and started. GBSS PBC was boys, young men and boys from there who stormed out of their classrooms and took to the streets demonstrating. And I don't know if you remember, Revo today, Revo tomorrow, demo today, demo tomorrow. That was the slogan of the young people. And it's education that brought that about. They were educated. If they weren't educated, they wouldn't have that, you know. So it was a comparison through the years. And the time had come for the islands, including Grenada, to move out on their own. Again, I may say, like we go back to the movement, it started off as a group of us. I was part of it in the very beginning. Meeting Morris, Kenrick, Eunice Whiteman, Jackie, myself, and there might be one or two others. Meeting in Morris's father's office upstairs of every person and talking and trying to bring about changes in education. The people in Vincent Steady Victor was an important part of that.
So, Mr. Francis, if we could...
Especially the older people, to read, to write, and so on, and that kind of thing.
Right. And Ms. Williams did mention the CP program. And so let's cross over to Mrs. Steele for a minute. We'll come back to Mr. Francis. Mrs. Steele, you having served 38 years in the public service, and you are monitoring a lot of the debates and what's happening, the struggles being faced by the unions, and people talking about the fact that, you know, the whole makeup of the public service is being disintegrated by contract employees. Your thought on the public service and its role in nation building? Mrs. Steele.
Thank you very much, Odette. My views could be a little radical along these lines. I always maintain that we had a system after the revolution. I'm not like Glenda to go back there and start. After the revolution, the public service found itself with a lot of issues. And I remember that the British government, like the Canadian government came in with a lot of scholarships, an enormous amount of scholarships. I was a person at the time heading that department in the Prime Minister's ministry. But after Canada got exhausted, the British came in, and what they did, They set up a program called the DPMS, and Basil Harford and I were trained to handle it. The Department of Management Services and Personnel. The whole idea of that department was basically to train public officers at all levels, including personnel. So you had a group now of young people, some professional, some not so professional, who are in the public service. And you have them now where you have to decide, following the collapse of the revolution, where you are going. Now, sometimes we forget that before the revolution, we had structures in place. You didn't come into the service with a degree and went straight to a senior position. You were given 2 years as what we call an administrative cadet, and you were placed to look at the audit, to read the financial and store rules, to read the staff orders, and you were trained there for those 2 years. But first of all, you were told to read the Constitution of Grenada. The Constitution is an important book, just as the finance. Now, when we started, Basil and I, the firm of Pete Barwick, a British accounting firm, came down, and everything was streamlined. This was your way forward. This is what you had to do in the public service. So you knew that for you to get promotion, there was a certain route you had to go. You just couldn't come in and sit in a ministry and have a class 3 clerk or a finance officer preparing your budget. There were a lot of senior members in government who couldn't prepare a budget. So these people had to depend on a lower group of people. We went along with that. And then I look at the destruction of that department that became the DPA, the Department of Public Administration. Who are you dealing with? The DPA or the Public Service Commission? And a lot of the frictions that is existing today is because the DPA took away a large portion of the work of the Public Service Commission. The appointment of people. Let me give you an answer, just an example, Odette. You will have somebody acting in a post that is not vacant. The owner of that post is outside studying for 2-3 years, but you are holding on. While you're there, you are removed from there and put in another ministry on promotion. So you're acting in a ministry on promotion while you're holding a post to which you're not entitled to. And then the problem would start when that person would say, I've been there 4 or 5 years. Get appointed. We ask the question, appointed to where? So the Public Service Commission, and I spent a number of years, we took out a phrase, Gloria will understand this, called until further notice. UFN. What is that? If you are somewhere, give them a time frame in which there's a cutoff point. And that is all the problem today going on in Tamsisi, where you have people operating on a subvention, different categories from various ministries looking for increments. I could ask Gloria, we discussed this over and over. What is secondment? And so today you have a public service which is fraught with difficulties and unfortunately at great cost to the government. And I'm not speaking politics, government, I'm speaking about government.
So if I can just...
Because the canton, unions are saying every day, there are a number of people who are not appointed. If you go back to the history of these people, you will see they're not appointed because they're not in a post that is vacant. Mm-hmm. The DPA, I have said over and over, the DPA is lucky for the years they have been there. Nobody have taken them to court. And so they can go and explain what is going on there. And the secondment is a big problem And it starts with MCC to go other places. You have secondment. Then we talk now about when you're ready to retire. You have your pension. What is gratuity? I would tell you, Odette, I have a lineup that come to my house on a weekly basis. I had to go and buy a new computer the other day. Because if I show you the folder of people I have been doing certificates for, sitting down, going through the program, going through their years of service, trying to help them out. Sometimes I even have to speak to Rachel. Sometimes Rachel and I talk. I send back people to her. All this could be avoided. Now I hear Judy talk, and she talk about the CPA. You know why the CPA was put there by Morris? We used to go to a lot of NWO meetings. That time Gloria studying outside, she can't talk on that issue. Morris found out there were a large percent of students, especially in secondary schools, who are brighter than their teachers. Morris starting in step and CPE packed them down. CPE, of course, as Judy explained, was for the rural people and people of a certain level of education. For about 9 months, me and my eldest daughter used to have 3 fishermen every Sunday evening at home from 4 to 7 o'clock, teaching them to read and write.
So
a lot of people did that.
Ms. Steele, let me just ask a minute if we could just go to Mrs. Payne Banfield. Ms. Steele, we'll come back to you shortly. Mrs. Payne Banfield, so I think Ms. Steele has addressed some issues that opened a can of worms because we're hearing about the struggle and the fight, but she has explained some things that probably needed to be explained and ventilated a long time ago. So as you look back on the public service and you look to today, would you want to pick up on some of the points that she's raised?
Yes, because, people don't realize how important a public service is. And to me, what is happening now in Grenada is that there is a kind of chipping away at the traditional public service. When I say chipping away, like somebody is taking a hammer and a chisel, and they're chipping away, and they're looking for the weakest points. And the weakest points would be the vacant posts, which are not filled by career public officers, but by people who are chosen. I call them chosen people that are given contracts. But you cannot have a public service with 40% or 50% people with contracts. Contracts should only be given to exceptional people who want to spend 5 years helping you out with something like consultants and so on, but not career people. And you ought to have a career public service. Because when you think of it seriously, the public service as an institution is the backbone of your governance. I'm not talking about political government now. I'm talking about governance in the country. How you do certain things. It is governed by rules and regulations. It is governed by staff orders. Public Service Commission has a set of orders. It's an act. And those are the rules and regulations by which it functions. And then, of course, you have the staff orders, which were called from the general orders during colonial times. But even then, an attempt to review the staff orders and review them and revise them and put a new set of staff orders seem to have failed. Because for about 20 years, people like Gloria Clarkson and myself, who have already gone, Gloria has gone to the grave, and I am on retirement, Pamela and all of us retired. We have left the service without being able to do anything with the rules and regulations. And I'm hoping that one day a government will see it necessary to make sure that there are regulations in place. After World War II, France did not have a go. Every Monday morning they had a new government, but the public service ran the country. They knew what they had to do. And your public service is what will run the country, whether you have a set of people called the government there or not. So the institutionalization of a career public service is important to the development of our country. And when it is being chipped at and eroded, what you're going to have after a while is nothing in its place. Chaos and confusion.
And
so
do you think we're there yet?
Laughing.
Do you think we? Sorry. Do you think we're there yet? Because there seems to be a lot of chaos and confusion these days.
Well, I listen. I used to be on the negotiating team, and I listened about these negotiations that went on, and I wondered why did pensions have to be an issue for negotiations? Because pensions, or the right to pension, is covered in the Constitution of Grenada. There's a whole section on the right to pension. So where did it come up that a public service union could entertain the employer putting that on the table for negotiation? The formula perhaps could be negotiated, but pension should not be negotiated at all. You have a right to pension. Anyway, we may raise a can of worms with that.
Well, I'm here thinking, it's already 2 minutes on to 10 o'clock according to my clock. The program is supposed to end, but it's like we have not even touched the tip of the iceberg. I see Miss Steele trying to get a point. Miss Steele, it looks as though you only have 30 seconds. Miss Steele, you muted your microphone apparently. Miss Steele?
Sorry, we have discussed that matter between us a long time ago. And it comes back to what I was saying, Odette. If people would read the regulations dealing with the finance, and if they would look into the Public Service Commission as in the Constitution of Grenada, they wouldn't have all this.
They don't.
It's all written out there. When you retire, you have options. Nobody tells you about it. Nobody knows. You have an option.
Okay.
You can take what we call a reduced gratuity and your full pension. People don't know you have to wait 12 years after you retire to get the balance of your money. I know that.
All right. I am stuttering a little bit because we have not had a discussion on some of the issues that we'd like to cover, and it's already 10 o'clock, so we may have to steal 5 minutes to get just some closing thoughts from our panelists. But let's make the rounds. So, Miss Basil Francis, as we get ready to close, we see we have moved from talk and chalk to online learning. You referenced the challenges with the education system, and your word advice to all and sundry as far as education and its importance to the country is, what would you like to say?
Well, I think we have to continue this discussion.
Yeah.
It is incomplete, and there are quite a few more things that should be said before we. Because remember, we were supposed to be leading up to independence.
Definitely.
We haven't got there yet. So I really can't conclude this now. I'm asking your permission if we could continue the discussion.
Okay, so I'm thinking here that we'd have to do a special edition, and I'll have to speak with our producers to see if sometime soon, because Monday is a holiday. Let's see how we can do that either another day this week or probably have a special edition on Monday or some other time, because indeed there are a lot of questions that I had here for various members of the panel. But we had to give way to these touching and pressing matters. So we won't wrap up Mrs. Mays Francis, definitely not. We will do an adjournment. But let me give everybody a minute to probably say something that has been on your mind as we lead up to Grenada's 47th year as an independent nation. Mr. Roberts, we're starting with you in New York, and then we go clockwise.
Thank you very much, and thanks for having me on the panel. Anytime you want me back, just give me a holler. I want to end on a not necessarily positive, concerning note, and it has to do with the upsurge of COVID-19 in the Caribbean. One of the people who was one of my mentors in New York State and in the United States is Dr. Lorna Scott McBarnett, who unfortunately is not with us today. She was a public health expert. She was the only female acting commissioner of health in New York State's history. Traces her roots comes from Carriacou. And it's in that sort of her spirit that I am evoking what I'm about to say in closing, is that the COVID-19 pandemic has upended everybody in the world. We in the United States continue to struggle with it mightily. Don't let anybody tell you that it's all great because we're such a technologically advanced country. the United States, unique in the industrial and first world countries, do not have a national health insurance system. It's a for-profit health insurance system that we see now the negative effects taking root in the era of COVID. But I stay awake in the night thinking about how my country, that I love so much, Grenada, is going to fare if this pandemic gets out of hand. And that is true also of the rest of the Caribbean region. So the thought I would like to leave with all of your viewers today is that governments in the Caribbean, particularly as we go into the 47 years of independence in that context, and governments are elected to seek the well-being of all of its citizens, that the present government should take a hard look of both how it can handle the pandemic in the context of vaccinating for protection, and also to look at what are the economic variables and opportunities that will come up. In short, they need to have a plan for post-COVID recovery. So I leave you with that. And I want to say thank you to all the panelists, great, incredible women, that I think that a sequel to this is very well something that we should put on the table.
And it is tabled, considered, motion is passed, date to be determined. Mrs. Steele, as we wrap up part one, you want to say something to Grenada, and what is on your mind?
Well, you know, Mr. Michael Roberts, you have said something in your wrap-up that starts a whole new line of thought. It starts a new thought process in talking about national insurance, national health insurance. The question is, when we talk about progress and development after independence, when will we get a national health insurance scheme? And the fact that we have COVID now suggests to me that it's time to have one. They've been talking about it. They haven't done anything about implementing it. Time to have a national insurance scheme where people like me who can't have insurance because they drop you after you reach a certain age would go to a doctor and get somebody to pay for it. That's one issue.
So
the other issues will come up when you have your sequel to this program.
And the panelists,
I would put on the table one thing. If we did not have independence, we could not have a revolution. I keep saying this. If we did not have independence, we could not have a revolution because the British was responsible for our foreign affairs and our defense. And you see, 1971, 79, they would have moved. But we were independent. We were a sovereign country and we could have had made friends with whoever we wanted to make friends. And therefore we had a revolution. And let me say this, the revolution seemed to have failed, but there were a number of things that the revolution started that were very useful and aided and abetted the development of this country. Let's not deny that.
Let's not deny that. Mrs. Steele, you we are going to have the sequel, but you want to leave with what this evening?
I won't even follow what Gloria is saying. She's right. That last statement. As I was saying, I never worked in education, so I don't really comment on the education with the tablets and so the children. My final comments here tonight is that having worked, as I say with all these prime ministers, and worked with Mr. Gary, and I wasn't really like Gloria, a Garyite. Let me just say that. She will laugh. But the thing about it is, I worked and what I would like to say is, I was impressed. I knew the struggle that led to independence. We all worked day and night, night and day. Even though the flag was taken down in the dark and as my grandmother used to say, Gary flag went up in the dark. Because we live on the Carnage. I mean, you know that. But I went last week into Cooperative Bank and I saw the bank had some hangings there. And believe me, it blew my mind when I saw a nutmeg with a mace on it as part of the flag. For years, we have bought flags. We have hung up flags, even though I have some on my veranda. And what you have is a pod, the nutmeg, and no mace. And Gloria and I may be the only two people always talk about all the nonsense they did with the flag. And I see that after 47 years, we have accepted what we should have done at least 40 years ago about this independence, because a lot of us work hard for independence. I could tell you that. And today I want to say that I always feel proud to see the steps that we made and where we are. And the fact is that we finally put in back the nutmeg on our flag with a mace on it. And I will tell you something, Odette. I challenge you to find out the story about the nutmeg with and without the mace. Gloria knew it. We do a lot of storytelling. So I want to wish everybody, in case we don't come back, happy anniversary, because the first 3 years I was a chairperson at the anniversary celebration at the National Stadium. We used to call it the Queen's Park, which I don't understand because Mr. Gary always say I never supported him, which was true. My family in town did, but not the Carnage people. Carnage people didn't have no time for Mr. Gary, except Cooper here. But anyhow, I want to wish everybody happy independence. I want to say that people should now bring up the trend to be proud of their heritage with their flag. And I would leave the health insurance for another issue, because I myself went to 5 meetings in Barbados with Kennedy Roberts dealing with the health insurance for Grenada about 30 years ago, and we got no place. And I want to wish you all the best to do this.
Thank you so much. Miss Steele, making me call Lincoln Toro Deputy right after this program for him to own up to Cooper Hill and their allegiances. Toro, the phone will ring. You just wait.
Ring, because he tells me already he don't care what I say. He was a bad guy, right?
I'm still calling him and harass him. I still call him Toro. Mrs. Macy Francis has taken a pass. She's made it clear that we ain't finished this, and so she's taken a pass. Ms. Williams, I'm not certain we'll have you back another time because Joseph conned you into this. You've made it clear to us that you're not doing media engagements. So you're having the last word tonight, and we're honored to have had you on the program. So you want to say a couple of things that has been on your mind. This is the opportunity.
Yes. Thank you, Odette, very much. I want to say a couple of things indeed. I want to thank you, and I want to say that it went better than I thought in terms of my accepting and in terms of my, walking along with this. I want to say I feel very honored to have been in the company of such luminaries in this country, women who have really paved the way and who have inspired me in what little I have been able to do. Just some thought. The health of the nation is the wealth of the nation. When we have a healthy nation, we will definitely have a wealthy nation. I remember coming into Grenada just about the time when this whole question of independence was on the table. And of course, I felt very, very strongly that it is about time that we can see about our own affairs. So I was very much involved in wanting to get independence. I would agree that we have done some beautiful things and some wonderful things. And yes, there are some things that I feel very proud about. However, let me open another can of worms and to say that I feel absolutely disappointed, put it mildly, that after 47 years, one of the things that we felt was not right about going into independence at the time, as a young person, that we were going into grasping independence, but the constitution that would guide us thereafter was designed not by us, but by other people. And I feel totally deflated that after 47 years, we still have not been able to come up with our own constitution. The Grenadians, by and large, no matter what we say, Grenadians, by and large, do not know a third, a fraction of what the Constitution of Grenada said. And it's about time that we take the time. I remember making that point and I was told we don't have the time. I don't know why we didn't have the time, but I think it's about time that we take the time to get our people involved in crafting and developing a constitution that is ours. On this note, I would want to extend my deep condolences to the family of our beloved Levi Benoit. I was totally shocked this evening when I thought, getting ready for this, I heard something about Levi transitioning. Twice yesterday, I wanted to ask the team that came by me, where is Levi? I didn't know that he was not well. And I really want to say how deeply I feel about getting this news. And I hope and pray that he will enjoy eternal peace, eternal rest, eternal life. Comrade, we call each other that. May you rest in peace, Levi, and may the family be strong at this time. If I am able, I will not decline coming back on the program. God bless you, Odette, and thanks a lot, everybody. Nice to have been with you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Williams. And of course, at the start of the program, we started with a moment of silence for Levi. Before we go this evening, we did ask our viewers and listeners if they had add to the list. And we did get a list, and I'll try to run through it quickly. Somebody nominated Mr. Charles A.R. George, Charlie George, well known. Somebody nominated Superintendent Connaught of the Traffic Department. Roland Hood, the truancy officer. Shelley Ann Lewis, guidance counselor, GBSS. Ayana Williams, charitable donations. Kim Cummins, a nurse. Lucia Andel, a riser. Shauna Coffey, psychotherapist. And we have somebody nominating Junior Checkley of Just School Media for the work done or being done in collaboration with GBN, including Traffic Cam, Saturday Morning, Market Vibes, and Out and About. David Peck Edwards, culture and work with young people. We know he has also transitioned. Dr. Francis Martin for his role in managing the COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the early stages and up to present. So we do have segment 2 coming your way. We'd let you know when we're doing it. So if you want to add to this, feel free to send us your messages via Facebook or via WhatsApp on the Facebook page, and we will entertain your suggestions. Let me say a very special thank you to our panelists. Mr. Michael Roberts, who is based in the United States, has been living there since 1988. Mrs. Pamela Steele, public servant, career public servant, served 38 and proudly served 6 prime ministers. Mrs. Glenda Mason Francis, involved in education, a teacher at the GBSS and the Anglican High School. Mrs. Gloria Payne Banfield, a career public servant as well. Now I'm learning about the dance. I didn't know about the dance. I knew about netball. She was involved in the diplomatic services for 8 years as well. And of course, the Honorable Judy Williams. She has been involved in community development for a number of years, and we'd like to thank her sincerely. To all of our panelists, a sincere thank you. To members of the GBN team who went out yesterday, we want to say hats off to you. Keith Ventu, whose idea it was to celebrate these women this evening. Keith Ventu, we're still looking for you to come in front of the camera. You're hiding in the background, but we'd get you one of these good days. I want to thank everybody. And of course, as we did at the start, we salute our stalwart, Levi Benoit, who's transitioned to the great beyond. He's gone. He will never be forgotten. He loved us. We loved him. He served Grenada well. Levi, so long. To his family we say, hold the fort. There are days when you're going to feel as if you're crumbling, but we're here to hold you up. The calls have come from near, they've come from far. It just tells us how Levi touched the lives of people across the Tri-Island state, and people who have gone to other parts of the world. They have not forgotten his service. The Grenada Broadcasting Network is honored to be able to serve you on a daily and nightly basis. And we thank you sincerely for your outpouring of love and support. Till another time, I'm Odette Campbell. God bless us all. So long. See you.